Last week in Michigan politics, a major agreement to keep the Michigan government open has been reached. Just days before swaths of the Michigan government could face a shutdown, the latest as lawmakers race to reach a state budget deal ahead of next week's deadline. Plus, the Kane County Sheriff's Office is hoping to add more eyes on the street with a new program to increase their surveillance footprint in the county. How local schools, businesses, and institutions are being asked to help. And pandemic-era overpayments for unemployment are starting to come due in Michigan. What options are available? I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on Your Side Rundown. And we begin at the state capitol in Lansing. With less than a week left to put a final state budget in place and avoid a shutdown for many parts of the Michigan government, leaders announced late Thursday they've reached an agreement to pass one ahead of the deadline. Both the Democratic Senate Majority Leader and the Republican House Speaker referred to this as a framework. With final budget bills yet to be passed as of Thursday evening, many specifics remain to be seen. However, some details we do know include nearly $2 billion additional dollars per year that the governor's office said would be put toward fixing local and state roads. House lawmakers also late Thursday night passed a bill to institute a 24% wholesale tax on marijuana to help fund roads. 13 on Your Side will continue to follow these updates as they continue over the next week. And as that final deal is still yet to be reached as of this recording, the clock still ticks. On Wednesday, workers and educators rallied, calling on lawmakers to finish the job. Those at the rally feared people like them could pay the price.
No shutdowns, no cuts.
And for many, no time to waste.
The clock is ticking.
Just roughly 1 week to go until swaths of state government could face a shutdown. Lawmakers still in negotiations as to a final state budget. If not passed by October 1st, state funding would grind to a halt.
No shutdowns, no cuts.
While Governor Gretchen Whitmer has hinted at a government contingency plan, there haven't been many specifics. The scene leaving many fearful over what services could be halted and what workers could lose their livelihoods until a deal was reached.
Guess what won't wait? Your rent won't wait. Your bills won't wait. Groceries won't wait. This damage will do what? Squarely land where? On our shoulders. This is where it will land, on the working people's shoulders, our shoulders.
From laborers to educators, including people like Jo Bird, who says she taught in Zeeland for decades.
I just knew that I wanted to change the world, and I thought I could do it best one student at a time. We just want to be respected, but the funding is important. People know that the smaller the class size, the more attention you can pay on the kids.
And Erica LaFontaine, a home care worker from Jackson.
Medicaid is what helps us survive. Home care workers help them thrive.
Calling on the legislature to finish the job. In many schools, holdoffs on hiring or possible changes to programs have been considered or even put in place, according to leaders, as they've decided their own budgets without numbers from the state. Some even considering taking out loans to make ends meet if a budget doesn't come through.
If we don't have a state budget in more than 30 school days, then that's a contingency that we're going to have to explore.
We urge all state leaders to engage in thoughtful negotiations to get a quality budget passed right away for the sake of our students and the educators who serve them.
And Governor Gretchen Whitmer visited a Kentwood school Monday to reaffirm her commitment to getting a deal done. 13 on Your Side was there. For many school families, this is one of the most important parts of the day.
The hassle in the morning of trying to get everyone out the door on time, find something halfway nutritious to throw in their bag to make sure that they had something.
And it's a cost many parents haven't had to shoulder on their own for a while.
Good job, guys.
But at some schools, that could be in danger. State lawmakers still without a budget deal, with just over 1 week to get it done before the state could face a shutdown. It could mean a gap in state funding that ensured universal breakfast and lunches for state public schools for the past 2 years. something Governor Gretchen Whitmer traveled to Kentwood to say she was trying to prevent.
This is at risk as we try to close out this budget, something that I want to make sure that we get done. It's a priority of mine because I've seen the difference it's making.
In Lansing, lawmakers have debated how to handle the money. Republican leadership in control of the state house had proposed moving the funding to allow schools who need it for meals to use it for meals or use it elsewhere if they don't.
I think it's important that we designate dollars for lunch and breakfast. I think if we don't do that, we run the risk of some kids having access to meals and others not.
Here at Kentwood, the superintendent told us that disruption isn't as much of a concern for them.
We're fortunate that all of our schools are covered by the federal provision for free meals for our students. We are what is called community eligible.
But they are still staring down the possibility of borrowing loans to make ends meet.
If we don't have a state budget and more than 30 school days, then that's a contingency that we're going to have to explore.
And also in Kentwood, Governor Whitmer was asked about the possibility of the National Guard being deployed to Detroit, as it has been or expected to be in places like Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and Memphis. It's something Vice President J.D. Vance offered when he was in Michigan last week. And the governor said those tactics are unwarranted and not something she would be asking for. And as we reported last week, Vance had also spoke on the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. This week, a vigil was held on GVSU's campus by the school's Turning Point USA chapter. The vigil began at the university clock tower before moving indoors due to rain. Attendees joined in group prayer and song to remember Kirk's life. The president of the university's chapter of the organization Kirk founded, Turning Point USA, said he was pleased with the turnout for this event.
Yes, we were hoping for a lot, and I think we got more than we expected, which is always great. A lot of patriotic young men and women, old men and women, people of all kinds here today. So we're very happy to see them.
The chapter is holding more events on October 8th and 15th, with more details to come. The brief suspension of comedian Jimmy Kimmel's late-night talk show on ABC following comments surrounding Kirk's alleged killer sparked controversy and debate over freedom of speech and how the First Amendment should be interpreted. The network pulled the nightly show after FCC Chairman Brendan Carr suggested the agency could take further action against the network if it didn't punish Kimmel in some way. Disney, ABC's parent company, has since returned Kimmel to the air, with this past Tuesday being his first show back. 13 on your side's Nick Nelson spoke with a constitutional law expert who's sounding the alarm about the future of free speech protections.
The First Amendment speaks to the government. The government can't do anything to interfere with someone's First Amendment rights. And that's the problem that we run into here. That's why there's something wrong with it.
Distinguished law professor emeritus Jeff Swartz says he's troubled by the apparent move by the Federal Communications Commission Chairman Brendan Carr to influence the decision of ABC to suspend its late-night comedy show Jimmy Kimmel Live.
He has decided, oh no, we are going to do what we need to do and censor. If we consider it a violation of the public trust when someone says something like Jimmy Kimmel said. It's actually not a violation of the public trust because the public trust has the right to hear all opinions.
Kimmel was indefinitely suspended after a monologue that criticized President Donald Trump and his supporters' reaction to the shooting death of Charlie Kirk. The decision has caused an uproar, with some saying the move by a member of the federal government is eroding free speech protections in the First Amendment. Swartz says he believes First Amendment rights are being violated.
He can seek injunctions against the FCC taking action against ABC or its mother company, Disney.
Swartz says the controversy underscores how important the First Amendment is.
It was that important to our founders that freedom of speech be protected. In other words, it was in many monarchies, the expression, thou shalt not speak ill of the king. And it was considered to be an offense to the king that was punishable by imprisonment to say something. We don't have kings in this country. President of the United States is not a king.
Nick Nelson, 13 on your side.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, could be expanding in West Michigan. The General Services Administration posted a solicitation last week for office space in support of law enforcement operations, including in Grand Rapids. This lease term in Grand Rapids would be 10 years, and the posting doesn't specifically mention what law enforcement operations those might be. However, according to reporting from NPR, 3 anonymous GSA employees said the agency had begun an effort to lease private offices to allow Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, officers to establish long-term workspace in cities where they operate. In West Michigan, GR Rapid Response to ICE posted on social media saying, quote, "The fact that ICE has probably decided to rent office space in Grand Rapids is a consequence of the Grand Rapids City Commission's refusal to adopt the sanctuary policies that Movimento Cosecha and GR Rapid Response to ICE have been pushing for since the beginning of the year. It further demonstrates the city of Grand Rapids puts undocumented immigrants at greater risk by not adopting sanctuary policies that would make it harder for private entities to rent office space to ICE." And the Michigan Supreme Court is taking up the dispute between Enbridge and the state of Michigan over the controversial Line 5 oil and gas pipelines. It will hear an appeal to a lower court decision to uphold the Public Service Commission's decision to approve a permit allowing Enbridge to build a tunnel under the Straits of Mackinac. The U.S. Supreme Court already agreed to hear the case and determine whether shutting it down is a state or federal fight. A federal judge has temporarily stopped the federal government from collecting personal information about residents in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. Michigan was among 21 states alongside Washington, D.C. that sued to stop the federal government from collecting the data. There will be a hearing next month to decide if a longer-term prohibition is needed. The states argue that personal data should only be used for administering the food assistance program. They fear the information could be used in mass deportation efforts. SNAP serves over 42 million people nationwide. A U.S. senator from Michigan is claiming that the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, is violating federal privacy and security laws. Senator Gary Peters, a Democrat and ranking member of the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, released a report alleging that DOGE is operating outside of federal law. The report, based off staff investigations and whistleblower accounts, claims that DOGE staff has copied Americans' sensitive Social Security and employment data into a cloud database without verified security controls. In a statement, Peters said, in part, quote, "DOGE isn't making government more efficient. It's putting Americans' sensitive information in the hands of completely unqualified and untrustworthy individuals. They are bypassing cybersecurity protections, evading oversight, and putting Americans' personal data at risk." A class action lawsuit temporarily paused the collection of pandemic-era overpayments for hundreds of thousands of Michiganders. But that pause is over. 13 on Your Side's Nick Nelson spoke with the director of the state's unemployment insurance agency for what was the latest on collections and options for payment plans, as well as a woman who says she was able to win money back from that suit.
I believe it was between $4,000 and $5,000 that they said that was going to need to get paid back. So I started making payments. I think it was like $400 a month, and on top of your regular bills when you work part-time jobs when you're 20, that was a lot of money.
West Michigan resident Marie Hosep faced unemployment due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and later faced a repayment order back to the Michigan Unemployment Insurance Agency, costing her thousands of dollars. However, last year she got that money back as a result of a class action lawsuit that also paused collections of overpayments to Michigan workers. Last week, that pause was lifted, and Michiganders that still owe those overpayment balances need to pay them back.
We have a legal obligation, the Michigan Employment Security Act, federal rules and laws, make it so we've got to collect these balances.
UIA Director Jason Palmer says about $2.7 billion still needs to be collected. Hosep worries about the financial well-being of those who still owe money.
I understand kind of where the state is coming from and that they gave people money that they didn't mean to, and they want to cut down on state debt and things like that. But I don't feel like the answer to do that is to take money back that's already been paid.
Palmer says anyone unable to make a payment before the September 29th due date can request a financial hardship waiver. He says there are also options to set up payment plans with the agency.
We're not asking for these balances to be paid back in full right away. People will have a chance to set up a payment plan with the UIA, and these payments can start, pretty low so that people can start paying this.
Hosep told us, however, that the waiver claims she requested initially were consistently turned down. She still emphasizes persistence in seeking relief for those who owe.
Most people would have given up probably 6 months before I did. And if you keep hearing no and you keep going up the chain and you keep hearing no, keep going up the chain.
Leaders in Kent County held their annual State of the County address this week, highlighting what they feel are successes and laying out plans for the future. Coming up, a project underway by the county sheriff's office that they say could alter response times and safety in the community. In Ottawa County, people living in Georgetown Township say they've paid hundreds more for water since the summer. Township officials say what people are paying is reflective of the township's usage. 13 on your side's Nick Nelson breaks down what happened at a township meeting this week.
The township says they had to raise these rates in response to the city of Wyoming, which provides the water here in Georgetown Township. However, residents say something needs to be done about their high water bills.
The average quarterly water and sewer bill for a family of 4 is $209.25. My bill, and it's a family of 2, my wife and I, is $983.
This resident and several others in Georgetown Township have seen their water bills increase dramatically and took to Monday night's township board meeting to express their concerns. They say the water bills, often reaching close to the thousands of dollars, are putting too much of a financial strain on residents to bear.
With everything going up from food to gasoline to taxes to whatever, I think the seniors and the residents of Georgetown Township needs some sort of a relief.
The rate hike is being driven by water infrastructure needs of the city of Wyoming, who's in charge of distributing water to various communities in the area. Township Board Supervisor Jim Wieringa says, however, that the township also has its own need to repair water infrastructure.
We have pipes in the ground that are about 50, 60 years old now. And as much as we do to try to maintain or prevent or stop leaks when they start with cameras and all the rest of that, it is an aging infrastructure. And of course, there are ongoing expenses quite apart from anything that was done by our adjacent cities.
Some board members also noted that the mid-year rate hike is based on usage during the days where water is used the most, and that Georgetown Township uses much more water than other surrounding communities.
When that usage doubles, or more than doubles, actually it triples from winter usage to summer usage, the use of that water is what actually drives the cost. And that's because it wears on the equipment.
Although Wyoming distributes the water, Ottawa County is the one who sets the rates based on usage. In Georgetown Township, Nick Nelson, 13 on your side.
In Kent County, city leaders in Lowell have warned residents of a scam alert that the city says is targeting people applying for property permits and rezoning requests. Those targeted are receiving emails, they say, that appear to come from the city manager with a USA.com address. However, City of Lowell emails do not end that way. The emails ask for payments and receipts to be emailed to the sender. City leaders say they will not request zoning or permit payments by email without calling first. Anyone who receives an email should not click any links and call the city. Helping out veterans, the new amphitheater, and the status of the Grand River Greenway project. These were some of the topics discussed at the State of Kent County address at DeVos Place in downtown Grand Rapids this week. The address serves to recap what the county has accomplished in the last year and plans moving forward to improve the community thousands call home. County Administrator and Controller Al Vanderberg talked about work happening now to improve as well as make more efficient the County Medical Examiner's Office. The county is working on securing a better facility and teaming up with Michigan State to train people in this field right here in Kent County. He talked about the vision of the Grand River Greenway, a large trail system along the river, calling it the largest one-time investment in outdoor recreation and community health in West Michigan's history. And of course, the housing crisis was touched on as well. Vanderburg highlighting what the county is doing to fight the ongoing issue.
The county invested $17.5 million in ARPA funding, which IFF matched with $40.8 million, creating a $58.3 million loan fund. I'm very happy to report that this fund has provided critical support to private and nonprofit housing developers at a time when high interest rates and inflation have made projects more difficult to finance.
As we've reported extensively, the new Acrisure Amphitheater and Amway Soccer Stadium in Grand Rapids were recognized for bringing expectedly in millions of dollars in economic impact in the near future. Also announced at that address, the Kent County Sheriff's Office says they want to work smarter to solve crime across the county. And they plan to use technology through a new program to have more eyes in the streets. They're doing so through a new program called Connect Kent County. Kent County Board Chair Ben Green says the program launched earlier this year and will allow businesses, institutions, residents, and schools to register their existing surveillance cameras with the Sheriff's Office, allowing police to tap into the security camera feeds at any time. The program is powered by a state-of-the-art real-time intelligence center housed at the Sheriff's Office.
It brings together cutting-edge tools like live data monitoring, multi-jurisdictional mapping, license plate readers, and community-based video feeds to give law enforcement agencies across Kent County the ability to respond faster, work smarter, and coordinate more effectively.
KCSO Captain Joel Rutan says Orlando, Florida, and Gary, Indiana are other cities with similar programs, saying he wants the Sheriff's Office to work smarter in cracking down on crime in the county. In the coming months, the Sheriff's Office will launch a website where the public can learn more about Connect Kent County, with a full launch by the end of the year. And in Muskegon County, a development on plans for the old Sappy paper mill property in Muskegon. A developer wants to build more than 200 single-family homes on that site on Muskegon Lake. But there are concerns about decades of contamination in the area. 13 on your side's Nick Nelson talked to leaders from the city and state and has details on the path forward for the development.
More than a decade ago, what was left of the S.D. Warren Sappy paper mill built in 1900 was demolished. However, nearly 100 years of industry has left contamination at the now empty site.
Think of things like in gasoline, benzenes, and different things like that. There is also PFAS, which a lot of folks are familiar with now, has been discovered at the site, as well as some heavy metals that we're concerned about.
The Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy is monitoring the area after the city of Muskegon approved a housing project with Parkland Properties, which is also transforming the Shaw Walker building in Muskegon. The site at the former Sappy Mill would be called Windward Point. That would put hundreds of homes on the former industrial ground.
If the private market is going to redevelop a piece of property, can that be done safely? It's on the developer and the burden of the developer to meet the standards set by the state of Michigan to mitigate any environmental concerns.
Parkland Properties tells us in a statement that it's been working with Eagle to address these concerns and hear from the public about the matter. Karen Vorse with Eagle says this is why the agency is taking public comments from now until October 21st, with a virtual meeting on the safety plan next week.
It is the developer and the consultant, their consultant's plan that they had submitted to us. But if there are questions geared toward the developer or their consultant, we can share those with them and help folks try to get answers that way.
Muskegon Development Director Jake Ekholm says the project wouldn't be able to get off the ground until Eagle gives them the environmental go-ahead.
This process, in order for them to be able to continue, both from the state statute side and the local zoning ordinance side, they have to comply with whatever conditions Eagle sets on their environmental mitigation.
And it may not be a major election year, but moves are certainly happening in contests set for this November and elections next year. After the break, we have the latest on state and local races. Now to your voice, your vote. We're a little over a month away from our next round of local elections on November 4th. Now, absentee voter ballots for the upcoming election are now available for Michiganders. You can request an absentee ballot online, by mail, or in person at your local clerk's office. Once you have received and filled out your ballot, you can return it by mail in a drop box at a precinct on Election Day, at an early voting site, or at your local clerk's office. For deadline dates on returning your ballot, visit michigan.gov/vote. The race for Michigan's next Secretary of State has a new candidate. Republican Macomb County Clerk Anthony Forlini announced his candidacy September 24th. Forlini is currently serving his second term as county clerk after winning elections in 2020 and 2024. He also served in the Michigan House of Representatives from 2011 to 2015. Forlini also served as Harrison Township Supervisor for 7 years prior. He is the second Republican candidate in the race. 3 Democrats have also declared their candidacies for the office. One of West Michigan's largest school districts is asking voters to approve a $230 million bond proposal this November. Rockford Public Schools says they would use the bond money for district-wide improvements like adding air conditioning in schools, installing electronic door locks, adding gyms or cafeterias to elementary schools that only have a single space for both, and several other upgrades to facilities, playgrounds, and bus fleets. The district says the bond will cost Rockford homeowners $202.50 per year for a home value of $450,000 with a taxable value of $225,000. The proposal will appear on voters' ballots who live inside the district. And after nearly 4 decades, Grand Rapids has a brand new fire station paid for with your taxpayer dollars. City leaders say the roughly $8 million investment, made possible through a previous state budget grant, will mean faster response times and safer neighborhoods. 13 on your side's Kiara Patterson spoke with the Grand Rapids fire chief about this new station.
We have not had a new station since 1987. Which is when Kalamazoo Station opened a few miles up the road. It was time.
Grand Rapids is opening its first new fire station in nearly 40 years. On Kalamazoo Avenue Southeast, the Kendall Street Fire Station is almost ready, and Fire Chief Brad Brown says it's long overdue.
It's been over a decade in the works. We really started to look at our response times and number of responses down in this district.
Chief Brown says firefighters have struggled to meet response goals in the neighborhood.
Our response times down here are less than 50% of what we'd like as far as the goal, and this is going to bump it up significantly to be in line with the rest of the city.
The new station is already drawing national attention. The department will be featured soon on National Fire Radio's podcast and video series.
They just said, you know what, Grand Rapids has a vibe. Like, the fire department's positive, labor and management are getting along, the city's supporting public safety. They said you don't get that everywhere.
The new station is the city's 12th. An $8.1 million, 12,600 square foot facility with 12 firefighters and a 3-person crew on duty around the clock. HME Fire Trucks in Wyoming built a custom engine for the station.
This is under $1 million, which is a pretty good bargain nowadays. We're excited to get down here. It's a brand new engine because we had to hire staff about a year ago. We started the building project about 2 years ago with the architect, and then later this week it opens.
A ribbon cutting Friday will mark the station's grand opening. Chief Brown says the new station will finally bring equity in public safety and peace of mind to families in the neighborhood.
My staff is very excited to get down here and start working in the neighborhood.
Some in the federal government this week suggested a link between prenatal use of acetaminophen, a main ingredient in household Tylenol products, and autism. What some health experts here in Michigan are saying in response. That's next. A Michigan congresswoman has announced this week she will be filing articles of impeachment against U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Representative Haley Stevens of Michigan argues that Kennedy has violated his oath of office and, quote, proven himself unfit to serve the American people, unquote. Her office alleged the secretary has engaged in efforts to jeopardize public health, increase the cost of health care, and cut critical medical research. She also accused him of not keeping promises made during his confirmation hearing and failing to carry out statutory duties. A major announcement this week from the White House, where President Donald Trump suggested a link between prenatal use of acetaminophen, a main ingredient in household Tylenol products, and autism. Here in West Michigan, 13 on your side, Delana Holland spoke to an autism therapy organization and an OBGYN about what they think about the suggestion of a possible correlation.
It has historically been the safest and most recommended pain reliever, fever reducer, medication that has been used for years in pregnancy.
Dr. Brad Irving, an OBGYN with University of Michigan Health West, has this message to his pregnant patients.
First thing I would say is don't panic.
Dr. Irving says the new report from the federal government is not directly linking Tylenol or acetaminophen use by pregnant patients to autism in their children.
And I would say my response is that's not really based on valid scientific data. It's based on a correlation.
Plus, fever in early pregnancy is not healthy for the fetus, and a pain reliever and fever reducer like Tylenol is recommended for a reason.
People are high fevers, there are higher rates of miscarriage, higher rates of problems with congenital anomalies if mom has high fevers.
Meanwhile, others are concerned about the message the report sends to those currently affected by autism spectrum disorder.
It's kind of mixed emotions.
That's Jennifer Ward-Kolka, Executive Director of Spectrum Autism Center, providing applied behavior analysis therapy to those with autism.
For the people that are experiencing autism today, I worry that it may make it even more divisive and take away from just helping them be happy and successful in this moment and in the future.
She also acknowledges many families she works with celebrate an autism diagnosis, seeing their view on the world like a superpower. But other families would wish it away if they could. And while there is importance in discovering genetic and environmental factors that contribute to autism, she says this might take away from the real challenges.
If we focus so much on the potential why, we're losing out on really helping those individuals and families too, those that may be living day to day with extreme challenging behaviors, limited independence.
And Dr. Irving says medicine is constantly adapting, but with real scientific data to back up new recommendations. At this time, he is not changing what he tells his patients.
The key is to not panic, use good, reputable science as the difference between real science and pseudoscience, and not try and make a correlation because it's juicy and it fits a certain narrative that they're looking for.
And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com.